welcome to Gridiron Unfiltered, where the ultimate fandom meets the gridiron. I'm FTD Insider Joel Norris, alongside with our partner in crime, FTD Insider Matt Williams. We are continuing our division series today on the Gridiron, talking about the AFC North, diving into the look at the Bengals, the Browns, the Steelers, and the Ravens. We're also going to talk about free agency recap and talk about some of the most impactful moves so far that have been made during free agency. We're also going to discuss our ultimate fan question that ties back into our AFC North conversation. Which quarterback is currently the best in the North? Burrow, Jackson, among the few who are at the top of the list in that division. We're going to talk about that on Gridiron Unfiltered, presented by Fan Day Nation, at Fan Day Nation on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, and X. Follow and subscribe on all platforms. Matt, what is up, man? How you doing, dude?
I'm doing pretty good, Joel. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, man, I am glad you're on, and we have a lot to discuss, especially in the AFC North, a huge division, and it is kind of a competitive division, at least between three teams, between like the Steelers, the Bengals, and the Ravens, and the Browns are kind of, on the outside looking in. But if you want to talk about and just talk about one team that is at least, what could have been team, but also what could be team, right? It's the Cincinnati Bengals. Going into this offseason, their big thing and heading into 2025 is to get the band back together. Keep Joe Burrow, get T. Higgins, keep Jamar Chase for a long term, and then get Trey Hendrickson back on board as well on the defensive side of things. It didn't start off so hot. It really didn't. I mean, Sam Hubbard retiring, Jermaine Pratt requesting the trade as well, and then so forth. I mean, it's really one of those things where you look and you're like, okay, we need some of those key pieces back to bolster up, and have a good offseason, right? It starts with Mike Gesicki, and a lot of people were thinking, okay, Mike Gesicki, right? I mean, but at the same time, that's a guy that Joe Burrow wanted, so that's number one. And the pieces came in within the next few days, or a few days ago here. I know it's Wednesday now, but a few days ago, it was Jamar Chase and T. Higgins late Sunday night signing their extensions. Jamar Chase signing a 4-year, $161 million deal that includes $112 million guaranteed. You also got T. Higgins back on board, finally a fan favorite, and everybody wants him back, and they got him back. A 4-year, $115 million deal, and that is guaranteed for the first 2 years. So they bring them back, and they're getting everything back in place. The number one priority for me with the Bengals, as we take a look at them, and as we dive into the AFC North looks here, heading into the 2025 year, the pivotal question for me, and you got the band back together, so we answered that one, but the pivotal question that we can talk about as we have our pivotal questions for these teams, the first one for the Bengals, obviously, are they going to fix that defense? I think the defense is the primary concern for this football team right now. I think the defense needs to be fixed, not just Trey Hendrickson. I think he's a must, and he's the sack leader, right? We're not going to deny what he's done. But the defense does need to be fixed, in my opinion, in tackling, and not that, and mentally as well. Motivation-wise, they need to be just focused and locked in like never before, especially with all these deals coming into place. I think the defense is the main priority in fixing everything there, especially at secondary and at the front of the defense. So, in your take, Matt, what do you think about the Bengals, and what are you kind of taking away from them? And answer to the pivotal question, really, is that the priority, fixing the defense?
Yeah, so for me, the Bengals their front office is probably the most frustrating front office in the AFC, if not the NFL, just because of how cheap they are and how long they take to get a deal. And, during the combine, the GM got in there, is like, we want to sign Higgins, we want to make Chase the highest paid receiver, we want to re-sign Hendrickson as well, and but first we want to get all the guys under contract before we deal with Higgins. So it's like nobody knew. It was just a whole unorganized mess. And then everyone's thinking, like, you want to sign 3 of your top players to huge contracts worth multi-year, multi-million deals. Do you have the money for that? Because you already know Chase is going to be the priority. I mean, Triple Crown winner. I mean, of course, he rightfully so, deserves it. Then you got T. Higgins, who you franchise tagged him last year, you franchise tagged him again, and then Hendrickson, like you said, he's the sack leader, 17.5 sacks. I mean, that's impressive. And now you're losing him. So they really shot themselves in the foot because you don't have enough money to pay all these big players that you promised, essentially, quote unquote promised, yeah, we're going to give you these contracts, and then like, well, maybe not, So it's frustrating. So now everyone else is looking at it. Well, you just kind of gave 3/4 of our money to 2 receivers. What about everyone else? So now it's like, are you going to try and build in the draft? Because in free agency, the ones that are available, they're going to want their money. So now what do you do? So I think they're just going to try and build in the draft. And it's really frustrating because they have a talented offense, like you mentioned, Gesicki, Chase Brown, who came in and filled in for, Zach Moss after he got hurt and rushed for 900 yards. And, so your running game is getting established. You have the best receiving core in the NFL, and we can go back and forth with that all day, but that's the best receiving core in the NFL, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And you have arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the league today, at least top 5. And now here's your defense just kind of like being hung out to dry with Sam Hubbard retiring and then, Trey Hendrickson going. So now what do? Your secondary is a mess. Your pass rush is about to be a joke. So what do? How do you build off of that? Are you going to try and draft, or are you going to try and bring in vets? So it's very frustrating. That organization is just very frustrating to watch start to finish.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things when you look at the Cincinnati Bengals and you look and you're thinking, okay, front office is the main thing. It's really frustrating to try to get everything on board, with them. And you're like, it's almost like you're trying to like shake them, and you're like, come on, man, wake up, this is what we need. And you're not listening to what you're doing. Oh, we're just thinking about the money. We're thinking about Joe Burrow. And you're like, no, you're not. You need to think about winning because Joe Burrow wants to win, right? So essentially you see what the Bengals do heading into the draft, heading into the offseason, or heading into not really just that, heading to gear up for the 2025 year with these new contracts to see how they fix the defense. I think it's the pivotal question right now. Can they fix the defense? Can everything get aligned for them overall as well? Another team in the AFC North that when you look at them and you're thinking, what do we do? And what do we talk about? This is probably going to be a short conversation, but it's the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett was the big topic going into this offseason. I want a trade request. You're thinking that, right? I want a trade request. I don't want to be here. It's about winning. I want to win a title. Lo and behold, it's like, okay, the owner and them, they're not going to meet. We're not going to meet. I'm done. I want out. And then you're thinking, this is not a smokescreen. This is legit. This is actually legit. And then what happens? A month and a half later, Myles Garrett signs a new 4-year deal, making him, the second highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. I throw my pen down, Matt. What are we doing? Like, what are we doing here? It's weird to think that they say what happened between a month and now. That is one thing I'm curious about with Myles Garrett. But they bring him back. Hey, they get probably the best defensive player back right now in the sport. So that's great for them. So now what's going to happen with everywhere else? That's the real big question. Not only just in financials for play wise, the big question is, and here's the pivotal question, do the Browns draft a quarterback for the future, or do they start Kenny Pickett? That is our pivotal question for the Browns. I think it's a big question at quarterback. And where do the Browns go from here after the Myles Garrett? So that's kind of a 2-part pivotal questions for us right here for the Browns. Because look, if you want to be talking about the pivotal questions for each team, the Browns have a lot. And I'm not trying to rag on the Browns, but it's the truth. It's a lot. So in my thoughts on everything, if you want to, honestly, Kenny Pickett's going to be a good thing. If you want to draft a quarterback, go ahead. I think Abdul Carter could be a good fit for them on the other side of things on the edge. So you got Myles Garrett on one end and Abdul Carter on the other out of Penn State. I think it could be a good draft choice for them if you want to bolster up that defense. Nick Chubb, I'm pretty sure that's going to be a re-signing there on offense for them. I don't see him really getting another offer from any other team. I think he's going to end up re-signing with Cleveland. If you want to look at the quarterback situation with Kenny Pickett or drafting a quarterback, if you want to draft a QB, fine, have at it. But I think Abdul Carter is the way to go in that second pick. But I think they're going to end up going quarterback. And I think Shadur Sanders may be likely that option from Colorado. We don't know if that's okay. I'm not going to bank any money on it, or I'm not a betting man. But I think that's where they're going. But if you want to look at the Browns like overall and just talking about just how they are operating now heading into the 2025 season, Number one, we can answer the two-part pivotal question. Where do we go from here financially after the Myles Garrett situation? Number two, who do you think their starting quarterback's going to be entering the 2025 season? And overall, Matt, where do they go from here?
Yeah, that's such a tough question because so I like to refer to the Browns as Forrest Gump's box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get with them. 1 year, surprisingly they made the playoffs last year despite not really having a quarterback, and with all the things that they've had going for them. 1 year they're in the playoffs, the next year they're not. And they're 1 year they're competitive, the next year you're not. So it's like, what do you do? And it's such a hard question to ask because it's like, well, you need a quarterback, but there's again, I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago. There's really no one standing out to me that's like going to come in and would just fix all the Browns' problems. Like, there's no one that's going to do that. So it's very hard to say, you know what? Yeah, you could draft a quarterback, compete with Kenny Pickett. I wouldn't say his starting spot is guaranteed just because he's got the experience, because, you could draft a quarterback. There could be a diamond in the rough there with Shadur Sanders, Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe coming in. And any one of them can compete for that starting spot. But, it's just, who do you have at receiver? Jerry Jeudy. Who else? There's really nobody else that's kind of like sticking out. You have David Njoku, who's one of the elite tight ends, and I think he gets often overlooked because of Travis Kelce and George Kittle. But, you got a good tight end in him. So you have Njoku, you have Jeudy, who had a really good year last year with the Browns, which is surprising because usually when you see it, players that get traded to the Browns, they kind of just fall off after that, So it's, what do you do? Shelby Harris, I think he's a good nose tackle, the former Bronco. I think he does well at the nose tackle. He's a good run stuffer. So that kind of like complements Myles Garrett a little bit. But it's like, again, they're just going to be another team with, they gave all this money to Myles Garrett, which I thought it was funny. Someone put up a post like Myles Garrett said he wouldn't go back and play for them for $159 million a year. So they gave him 160. I thought that was pretty funny. But, so what do you do? It's like, I guess you just draft at this point. You just kind of try to find those pieces. But, but you're always drafting. They're constantly drafting. They're not really making big splashes in free agency because they're trying so hard to keep Myles Garrett. And personally, I know people are going to disagree with this. I think they should have just let him go, bring in younger talent, and try to rebuild from there. Because obviously the old pieces aren't working. You need to find something new. I'm going to throw the Broncos in here because the entire time after Peyton Manning retired, John Elway and the whole front office, they were riding that mantra of, we'll bring in the old washed up quarterbacks from the tail end of their career because it worked before. So they brought in Joe Flacco, they brought in Case Keenum, they brought in Russell Wilson. All of them failed. So they're like, cool, we're going to switch it up, go something new. They draft Bo Nix. I think the Browns need to take that approach. Myles Garrett, we love you. Thank you for everything you've done, but we got to go in a different direction, So it's like, I think it's time to kind of like cut the cord on some of these guys, and you bring in young talent, you bring in new pieces, and you find out what works.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's really how we can conclude the Browns talk. Honestly, what are they going to do financially after Myles Garrett? What can they do with Myles Garrett now? What is the quarterback situation going to look like? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered for the Cleveland Browns. Another team that needs to have a question that needs to be answered is the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that does not honestly have a quarterback, granted. They do have a little bit of a better team than the Browns, obviously. They got talent like DK Metcalf at receiver. They got George Pickens, who, honestly, if you want to look at George Pickens, a lot of people are going to wait. Hold up, Joe, pump the brakes. But he is a good talent when having the right headspace. When he is motivated and he is ready to go, he can be on just like that. He just needs the right guy throwing to him. He needs the right motivation. Now, the big question is, and the pivotal question, well, two-part pivotal question for the Steelers right now. Number one, I think you add a two-parter to this. Number one, who's their quarterback? Who's their quarterback going to be? Who are they looking at? You got Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson again. Who can you get? That's number one. Number two, Can Mike Tomlin get over the hump and finally win a playoff game? He hadn't won it in 6 or 7 years. What's the motivation there? Is he motivated to even go beyond that? What's that going to look like? So in my honest thoughts and my assessment, and I'll leave it with you to conclude our Steelers talk, I think that the Steelers in general have the talent. They have the defense, at least, and have the talent on that side of the ball as well to make it far. But I don't know if mentally they're prepared to make it that far. I think coaching is a big problem. Now you're going to think, what are you talking about? Mike Tomlin is a Super Bowl champion. He's done a lot. Yeah, he has, sure. But here's the deal. The way that he coaches now and the style of coaching that he presents now, it was good probably 10 to 15 years ago. I don't know if that style of ball is good now. Down in the trenches every single game. Yes, it's good to win with physicality and defense. Sure, it is. Defense wins championships. But you also need to score some points, and you need to do it at a consistent rate in this league nowadays. You can't play sloppy and expect to survive each and every win, especially if you got to get to the playoffs, because in the playoffs, it's not going to work that way once you get into the playoffs. So for me, I'm trying to think where to go from here if you're a Steelers fan. If you're just in general with the Steelers, if you're Mike Tomlin, that's the pivotal question. Can Mike Tomlin get over the hump and finally win a playoff game in 2025? And who is their quarterback going to be? Matt, you can take it away from here, but that's my honest thoughts on the Steelers.
Yeah, I think for the Steelers to be successful, Mike Tomlin needs to get with the times. Like, he's refusing to change his style. He's refusing to change his play. Everything is still the same. He still thinks he's the 2008 Steelers with, Hines Ward, Antonio Holmes, Ben Roethlisberger. I know he's already retired by that point, but Jerome Bettis and whatnot. He still thinks he's that kind of Steelers, and the game is still that. The game has changed since then, and he hasn't really changed the playbook. It's still the same style of play. You have to change it up. The game is adjusting. You have to adjust with the game. And he's not really doing that. When you look at Mike Tomlin, again, I'm sure people are like, well, he hasn't had a losing record in 18 years. That's all fine and dandy, but how many Super Bowls does he have? 1. You've been to 2 Super Bowls, you won 1. And you haven't really won a playoff game since then. So, 1, I think they let the wrong quarterback go. I thought Justin Fields, I was very skeptical of him going to Pittsburgh. But I think he fit in with that offense well. I think he did really good with it. I think he was mobile. He had good chemistry with the receivers. And he fit well in Tomlin's offense. I think he picked the wrong quarterback to let go. And so now you have Russell Wilson. Who knows what's going to happen to him? Who knows if you're going to get Aaron Rodgers? So, and then what? Do you try and draft one? Well, Justin Fields is a mobile QB. You have mobile QBs in the draft. So, you let one go, why are you going to draft another one who was already talented, had experience, and, had, receivers around him, had a good running back? And then that's another thing. You let Najee Harris go. Who's your running back? Najee Harris, in all 4 of his years, rushed for over 1,000 yards. I think there's only 4 or 5 running backs in the NFL that have ever done that before in their first 4 years, and Najee Harris was one of them. Now he's out to LA with the Chargers. I'm a little worried with DK Metcalf and George Pickens because both of them are hotheads. DK Metcalf is the most penalized receiver since 2019. He's had 31 penalties called against him, and 10 of those are holding an offensive pass interference. That's the most by any receiver since 2019 that's not a special teams player. So, it's just like I'm really worried about that on the offensive side of the ball just because you have 2 hotheads that are both penalized equally. You have no idea what you're going to do at quarterback. You have no running back in your backfield right now. So what do you do? The defense, again, whenever you think of the Steelers, automatically everyone's mind goes to the steel curtain, and that's what they have. TJ Watt, number 1 pass rush, you can go back and forth with Miles Garrett, Max Crosby, all that. But he's always in that conversation of who's the best pass rusher. TJ Watt's there. You have, great secondary. You have Patrick Queen at linebacker. You have a good secondary. It's just so your defense is fine, but maybe add a little bit more depth to it. But, man, yeah, it's just so frustrating because Mike Tomlin is refusing to change his play style. And if they want to be successful, Mike Tomlin has to change.
Absolutely. And that's the truth, and that's what I'm thinking. I think he has to change, and he has to change his ways to at least win a playoff game. He's zero wins in the playoffs, I think, in the past, since 2016, I believe. I think it was when Ben Roethlisberger, during his last year, I believe, was the last time. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens heading into 2025 for the Steelers. One more before we move on to our next segment is the Baltimore Ravens. And the defending AFC North champs, and back-to-back, by the way. The Ravens are a team where you look at them and you're thinking what could be, right? That's another what could be team. But at the same time, they feel like they are getting closer and closer to reaching that mountaintop. And Lamar Jackson, it's no secret, he's probably top 5, maybe even top 3 in the league right now as a quarterback. You also got Derrick Henry in the backfield. You have a wicked offense with Todd Monken leading the helm, calling plays for them. John Harbaugh, a long tenured coach there in the NFL, but he wins, and his style of play still wins. You got talent like Zay Flowers helping out Lamar Jackson. You signed a veteran receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. We'll see how that goes. I think Diop will be used more with the Ravens. And it makes more sense for him being a Raven than a Chief anyway. So their defense is still stingy. I'm curious to see what they add in the draft. You got one of the best younger safeties in Kyle Hamilton in the secondary for that in that defense. Roquan Smith at linebacker. You got a lot of pieces on that defense for the Ravens team. So you got the talent there. The question is, can you? So we had pivotal questions similar to can Mike Tomlin get over the hump to win a playoff game? Here is the pivotal question for Baltimore heading into 2025. Can they get over the hump and win an AFC title and go to the Super Bowl? Can they get over that hump? Sort of like the Bills question we had last week with Caleb. Can the Ravens get over the hump? They got the talent. They got the coaching. I just feel like there is something that is stopping them. I don't know what it is, but something stops them every year, it seems like. It's like fate, something stops them every year. We'll leave it with you, and we'll conclude our segment here but with you, Matt. But can the Ravens get over that hump and make it to a Super Bowl?
The Ravens are just another frustrating team because you look at them and you're like, what are you missing? Like, because they're always just like either one game away from the mountaintop, like you said. Or, they're an extra point away or a missed field goal away or a drop pass on the goal line on a 2-point conversion away from getting to pay dirt. And it's like, so what are they missing? Because you look at Lamar Jackson. I mean, the guy's got the, most rushing yards by any QB in the league. He's got the record. You bring in Derrick Henry. And I was looking at stats when I thought that was a good idea to bring him in because when he rushed for over 100 yards, the Ravens were undefeated. They were 9-0 when he rushed for over 100 yards. When he rushed under 100 yards, they were 3-5. So they definitely, I think they were able to make that offense versatile because you had Derrick Henry, but they didn't hide behind Derrick Henry like the Titans did. The Titans just kind of like, we'll just give the ball to Derrick Henry, just run, Derrick, run. But with the Ravens, you have Zay Flowers. So Lamar Jackson, he's the moment. So you can hit people with, all these different weapons. It's a hard offense to predict what they're going to do. And John definitely knows how to utilize that offense. So it's like, what do you need? Because your offense is set. You have a good offense. So what do you need? Then you look at the defense. And again, the Ravens going all the way back to the Ray Lewis days and the Ed Reed days. I mean, that's just a hard-hitting defense. So it's like, what are they missing? Their secondary was pretty atrocious, this year. By week 6, when they played the Broncos in week 6, they were the number 1 pass rush and the number 1 run defense. They were the worst secondary, though. I want to say they gave up at least through the air. They want to say they gave up 24, 25 points a game through the air. That was the worst in the league at that point. But then it's funny, though, because you think you have Marlon Humphreys, who's a top corner in the league. So how do you have the worst secondary? So now it's like, okay, it's funny because they address one piece and then something else goes wrong. And then they address that piece and then something else goes wrong. So it's like, what do? You address the secondary and like, what else could go wrong? So it's like, I think they can get over the hump. They just have to find that one piece that's going to make them successful. Like that one piece to the engine that's going to get them completely over the hill. They're almost there, and I feel like Lamar is going to win one. His time is coming, but you got to find that one piece, something that is like, it's not going to go wrong. It's not a faulty equipment. We're going to get there. So I think they can do it. You just got to find that one piece. Whatever it is, you got to find it.
Absolutely. And like you say, you have to. I mean, you're almost there anyway. You're just so close. You're like this close to making it. So we will see what happens with the Ravens. That's the pivotal question. Can they get over the hump and finally make it to a Super Bowl? That is our division series and our look at the AFC North. Let us know what you guys think in the comments down below on X, Instagram, and YouTube on the Browns, Steelers, Ravens, and Bengals in the AFC North. And guys, if you want to rep your Bengals, rep your Ravens, rep your Steelers, or rep your Browns, over getting merch like this that I have on right now, click the link below in this YouTube description. Get all for our AFC North collection, and subscribe, follow, and comment down below on YouTube, X, and Instagram at FanDay Nation. Guys, let's just move on, Matt, and let's talk about free agency, because free agency is a real big thing, and it was a real big thing this past a week or two. Not even just past few weeks or two. I mean, there's been a lot of talk going into what moves were going to be made prior, to free agency, about a month out. But all these big moves have happened. We saw, for example, Deebo Samuel get traded from the 49ers to the Washington Commanders, even though it wasn't a signing or but it was a trade during free agency. So we're still talking about trades during free agency. We saw another trade with the Commanders, Laramie Tunsil from the Texans going to the Commanders. That helps Jaden Daniels out also on the offensive line. You get Sam Darnold going from Minnesota, leaving Minnesota and going to Seattle, and in a kind of a prove it type deal with them, but it's still a good deal for Sam Darnold to prove his worth again, and then to finally try to secure a longer deal afterwards. So Sam Darnold going to the Seattle Seahawks, and more moves have been made throughout free agency, and I just think some of these signings are just crazy or mind-blowing almost. Like, for example, DK Metcalf going to the Steelers. I mean, that's, a move that, to me, it makes a little bit of sense depending on the quarterback, but also not really, especially since DK Metcalf, wanted to play in, warmer weather, because he said he wanted to. And also, you don't know who the quarterback is, right? So it's kind of just funny that you would trade DK Metcalf to a team to where colder weather, that he didn't want to go into colder weather. He wanted warmer weather, but also doesn't know who the quarterback is throwing to him, right? So you got that, but you also have guys like Devontae Adams who preferred to stay out West Coast and then ended up going to staying out West Coast and signing with the Los Angeles Rams. How about Cooper Kupp going to the Seattle Seahawks, right? These big moves are it just makes free agency wild and fun. Those are some of my big moves that I've kind of thought about for free agency, but I'll leave it with you, Matt. What are some moves and some takes on free agency that you were thinking about, and some of the signings that left you kind of like interesting, but also like make you question some things a little bit?
So for me, I love the Evan Ingram signing and the Dre Greenlaw signing that the Broncos did over the weekend. The Broncos desperately needed a tight end. That was one of their key pieces they were missing on offense, was a tight end. Evan Ingram, again, he's another one that just gets overshadowed by George Kittle and Travis Kelce. But Ingram is the highest targeted, or was the highest targeted tight end in the league last season. He was the highest target. He's so versatile in his route running. He can run a plethora of routes, and he's so good at route running as well. He's got great hands. You worry about those injuries, but he's not that old. He's not that old, and they're nothing too bad that he couldn't come back from. And that was something Denver was missing. The Evan Ingram signing was great for them, and Dre Greenlaw, man, I was not expecting that at all. But I'm glad they did it, because linebacker was a position that they were really hurting in, and having Dre Greenlaw at middle linebacker, I mean, that's going to be great, because he can drop back in coverage, he can blitz, he does it all. And so those are great moves in my opinion. The Cooper Kupp one kind of got me. And it's not that I don't think he's a bad player. I think he was overpaid, though, for his age, and the guy has a CVS receipt list of injuries. His injury list is as long as a CVS receipt. So, not taking away his talent, I think he could still run routes, but can he play a full season? Has he played a full season since like what the year they won the Super Bowl, Super Bowl MVP? Has he played a full season since then? You know, so you worry about that. You know, they threw money at him. You know, I don't want to say they threw money. I mean, it wasn't that much, but I still think he's overpaid for his age and the injuries. And then, yeah, DK Metcalf, that one I was scratching my head on that one because again, like I said, George Pickens is already a hothead. You're bringing in another hothead who wanted to play in warm weather, and you know, Pittsburgh warm weather. You know, kind of, you know, opposite ends of the spectrum there. So I was kind of scratching my head on that one, but especially because, yeah, you don't know what you're going to do at quarterback. You don't even, like, it's not even certain that Russell Wilson's going to return. And even if you get Aaron Rodgers, is he even going to have a good season? Because last season wasn't that great. So what are you doing, man? But I think Denver, honestly, probably did the best. And I think they got overlooked and I'm being biased, but I think they did the best because they addressed almost every one of their areas of need. The Talanoa Hufanga signing got safety. So now you got Brendan Jones and Hufanga sitting back there in your secondary. And then you have Dre Greenlaw and Jonathan Cooper and Nick Benito and Alexander Singleton. You know, you got that linebacker core. And then you have Courtland Sutton, Evan Ingram, Marvin Mims, who's rising up right now, Troy Franklin, Devon Belay, young receiving group. So, I mean, this is going to be exciting to watch for them.
Absolutely. And guys, if you are a fan of any of these teams, Broncos, Vikings, Commanders, Texans, Seahawks, everybody I just mentioned, you name it, click the link below, and follow and subscribe at Fan Day Nation on all platforms. Click the link below and get your fandom on with all of these teams. Before we conclude our episode of Gridiron Unfiltered, we have our fan question now. And guys, thank you and shout out to everybody tuning into these fan questions and engaging with these fan questions on YouTube, on Facebook communities, on just our communities in general, on X and Instagram. Thank you for keeping on, plugging in and engaging with us at Fan Day Nation on all platforms. Follow and subscribe and keep plugging into these fan questions because these are fun questions and we want to keep you guys on the loop with everything. So our fan question for to conclude our episode is we tie back into the AFC North. Let's discuss it. Who is currently the best quarterback in the AFC North? Between Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, you also got Kenny Pickett, who's most likely, I don't know if he's going to start or not. They could draft anybody. Who is the Steelers going to sign? I don't know about that, but the conversation right now, most likely between Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. Right now, and my answer, and I'll let you, and we'll conclude it with you. I'm going to go close right now as a pure quarterback. I'm not trying to be biased, and I'm wearing the jersey, but Joe Burrow, to me, is probably that quarterback in the North, only because of, I just think that he's got the drive, he's got the stats behind it, even though Lamar does. I just think that Joe Burrow, to me, as a pure quarterback, mentally, stat-wise, physically, to me, is pretty much just a step ahead than Lamar Jackson. I think it's really close because I was debating on it before I started hit record, but I think Joe Burrow takes the edge currently right now.
Yep, I'm going to agree with you on that one. I think they're both unique in their own way. Obviously, I think Lamar is the better mobile QB, the better rushing QB. I think he's better at that. But if I want a guy that's going to sit back in the pocket and just let it go and actually hit the target and be accurate, and make that tight contested throw, I'm going to take Joe Cool every day, all day on that. And especially, he's actually got, even though he didn't win, he got to the Super Bowl. And he did it with a rookie receiver, a terrible offensive line, and a okay defense. So Lamar Jackson has had all of that for him, like good offensive line, good receivers, good everything. He still can't get over the hump. Joe Burrow made it to the hump, just couldn't quite get that pushover. So I'm going to, and you know what? He did it on the road. So I'm going to take Joe Cool every day over Lamar.
Absolutely. And it's a difference because you're thinking, Joe Burrow didn't make the Super Bowl. He didn't win MVP, right? He didn't win MVP. Lamar has like 2. Here's the deal though, man. Joe Burrow made it to the Super Bowl and he did it when he beat Mahomes when it counted in the AFC playoffs, right? So Lamar hadn't done that yet, but he can. We'll see. We'll just have to see maybe in 2025 or beyond. But guys, Who is the best quarterback in the AFC North currently? Is it Burrow? Is it Jackson? Guys, comment down below on X and Instagram. Tell us what you think and engage in our communities about that fan question on who is currently the best quarterback in the AFC North. Guys, if you are hungry, because I don't know about you, Matt, football makes me hungry. Guys, if you want to eat and enjoy some games and enjoy this episode of Gridiron Unfiltered, click the link below. We'll tell you how to do it. Food and sausage meats. You can click and get your fandom and your hunger on and cure your hunger with food and burger meats and sausage links and meats there. Just click the link below on the description of this YouTube video. You can follow us and subscribe on all platforms at Fanday Nation, on X, Instagram, and YouTube. Guys, click our insider pages down below as well. Get to know me and Matt more as your podcast host for Gridiron Unfiltered. And guys, for Gridiron Unfiltered and for us, that's Matt Williams, our partner, or my partner in crime and colleague for Gridiron Unfiltered. I'm FDN Insider Joel Norris signing off. We will see you later for Gridiron Unfiltered, where the ultimate fandom meets the gridiron.